Welcome back to Swanage Motor Railway. In this video, we're looking at these new motors that I've been getting, the Cobalt IP digital motors. This is just a single pack that I've got recently. Over here we've got a 12 pack that I've been using, and I've got 3 points left, or 3 motors left in there for these 3 over here. But I've got more work to do in this section, so I can't install them just yet. But this motor is motor number 13 for the layout, and that is going on the catch point right here. So this video is basically showing how to program the address and install this one. I've also got this point, which seems to be throwing opposite to my schematic. So if we look at my schematic, it says the point should be set for the siding, and we can all see that the point's set for the main. Also, the point directly opposite, this one seems to have self-centering turned on. So if I turn the power off and re-enable the power, as you can see there, it splits sides and then centered itself. So in this video I'll also show how to disable the self-centering, and for this one I'll show how to code it to throw the opposite direction. But first, let's get this out of its packet. We have our instruction manual, which I've got one here as well, which I've been using a pen to correct, because I'm using the Z21 system, and when you code on the Z21 system there's a slight incompatibility, which I'll go into in more depth in this video. So let's get this motor set up first. So at the pack, this is what we get. Little pad there, which helps for install. Okay, so let's get all the little bits. Right, so in these packs we get 2 small screws. They hold the rod on, but you only need 1, so we'll put this one over here to the side, and then you get 5 of these long screws, which I only need 4, so we've got a spare. So they will go back in the packet, and I'll put this over with the other ones. I've got tons of these screws spare. Right, so what we need to do is we need to get a screwdriver. Let's get you closer. Okay, so now we don't need a screwdriver. Now we need this piece, which can deflect the angle if you have to mount it off to the side. If you're mounting directly under, use the centre hole. But for one of the points I had to mount it offset because I could not go directly under. So for this case I think we can go directly underneath the point and track work, so we'll go through the centre hole. I mean, I can change that later if I want. Now this is sharp on that corner. I just found that out again. can affect the angle of the throw. So bearing that in mind, depending on how thick your boards are, depends on how far up or how far down you move that. That's about where I've been having it on all of my motors. Now we'll just peel one side of this off and stick it on, matching up with the slots for the screws. There, that is all set and ready to go. I just grabbed my 2 test leads, which is basically a bit of wire, crocodile clip one end, and exposed wire at the other. And I just noticed this one doesn't have the sticker over this side like all my other motors have had. So if I just grab one of these lot out quickly, they started doing these little warning stickers to say that these last 3 ports are for switches only, which this must have come out before they started adding them on, because you put digital in these 2, then if you're using an electro frog you can put the frog in the next connector, which is what I've been doing. So yeah, no warning sticker, so I'm gonna have to be careful with that. Don't want to wire it up backwards and blow the circuits. Okay, so let's install these bits. So it's literally push down on that, and feed the cable in. Okay, so that should be good. I'm going to put these screws to the side before I do lose them. And just to get us some track power, we'll clip straight onto these rails. Okay, so this point needs to be number 219. So what we'll do to program this is we'll come over to this little switch. Now that's currently in the run position, so if we set it to set like that, now we come over to our point controller, which also manages this point here. We have to throw it back and forth 4 times. Okay, so as you can see by the main line point, I was flicking it. So if we set this back to run and then switch it one more time, this one should go with this one. Yeah, that's working in the opposite. That'll switch the catch to be closed when the main line's this way, which is a no, and open when the main line's set for it. So we'll have to reverse this point to match, but we've also got to remove the centering from that one. Otherwise, one little short circuit, and then every time we come back to it, we'll have to flip the point just to get it to reset. So the next step I'm going to do is to install this motor, and then I'll put the panel back down, and then we'll go back for the programming of those two main lines. Now that we're under the board, you can see the markings of where the old point motor used to be. Now this is all part of a major redo of my point system, which will be in an episode coming out shortly. As you can see, I've got more of these point motors underneath the panel. This project is using a total of 13 of them. So, let's sort the camera out slightly. Only catch to these is they're a lot bigger. Now I've taken the crocodile clip leads off and put 2 bits of cable on, because they'll go into that terminal block. But I've also got to bear in mind that this motor's going that way round, so I've got a slight bit of trimming to do on my pad so that I can avoid the cabling coming from the tracks. Okay, so I've slightly trimmed that, make way for the cables to come up and then get out of the way. Seems I've done enough. So let's get these cables into the terminal block so that I can power this thing up. Okay, now that that's connected, let's just test our connection. Now that did not go. So I'll quickly grab a multimeter and test to see where my braking power is. So after a brief bit of rewire, a little black wire I had here wasn't actually connected to anything, so I've now run a new cable from the terminal block over here to the terminal block here. So if we do a test run, make sure we have the counterbalance throw. So we can now start working on this. Right, so now we've got 2 of the screws in. We can now remove the covering on that. Okay, now that that's in there, do a quick check to make sure it's yeah, that's all set up perfectly. Now we just have to get the last 2 screws in to secure the motor, as well as tighten up the first 2. And as expected, those 2 points aren't working together, so got a little bit of programming to do. So that's the installation of one of these. If you've got an electrofog point, then I'll just grab the camera. You can see these ones are all electrofog. So you've got your red and black for track power, then you've got your yellow, which is my colour coding for the electrofog. Now catch points like the one I just installed don't have electrofog, so no yellow wire required. But when you come to putting it in, if your track ends up shorting out, you got to change your red and blacks round. In essence, reverse your polarity to match the way the point's going. So that's all of them. That's 6 now installed on this panel, which leaves me with the last 3 over there, 2 mainline points and a catch point. But I've got some work to do over there before I get to that stage. But for now, let's get this back down and we can get into the programming of those last 2 points, and also get a camera angle of that newly installed point motor doing its job. Okay, so back on top of the layout. So there's the catch point. You can see the rod where we just installed it. The motor sits right underneath this bit, as you can might be able to make out the 4 little screws that are now poking through the surface that I'll trim down later on, as those screws are quite a bit longer than my baseboard is thick. So yeah, let's try these points out. As you can see, the main line is still going opposite to the point, so the point should be open for the siding right now. And again, main line should be closed because the catch point is open, which is what the diagram is showing. Catch point open, main line closed. But unfortunately, we're going the opposite way, and that point over the back has recentered again. So we'll come over to here, or just there will be fine. Now we'll get our 2 instruction manuals and have a look at the coding. Okay, so I only need those 2 pages open. I think first we'll sort out the self-centering of that point at the back, which means we need these instructions. Now this is where the programming differs from the instruction manuals. I actually called DCC Concepts to find out this information, and they were able to talk me through it. So I am going to make a video and show you how to do it, as I looked on YouTube and I couldn't find any videos relating to this topic on how to switch the throw of the point, which is what I really wanted to know. But I couldn't find any video that related to it, and every time I tried the instructions it didn't work, and I just coded to the addresses. Okay, so we can see one of these I've been scribbling on. So we'll come over to the clean version instead of the one with all my notes on it. Okay, so deactivating self-centering. So we're down here. It says set the point, sorry, put the set run switch into set, which I've already shown. Then it says to send the address 198 to the point. Now that is the bit that differs here. When using a Z21, these numbers shown up here, that are the programming command numbers, which are 197, 198, which I was just told about, and 199. When using the Roco Z21, if you haven't disabled the a certain setting, which I haven't because I don't have the app or certain maintenance tools to access that thing. So there's apparently an app that you can get on Apple or PC for the Roco Z21 maintenance tool or something like that, and you can actually disable the stepped up feature. But anyway, back on track, no pun intended. These numbers you never are not normally ones you can program to, but in my case I was actually able to program them in as the address of the point, because these are not the programming numbers anymore. The Roco Z21 steps them up by an increment of 4. So on my one here we have 197 becomes 201, 198 202, 199 203. So these are the numbers we cannot program to, because I actually had my points addressed to these on the system when they were using the old points. To save me from reprogramming, I was going to intend to use all the old points on the system. So if we bring this one up, you can see I've adapted this to send address 202 to the motor. So if I nip under the board, set this one into its programming position like that. Now on my control station I have 3 extra points down here. Now I need to send number 202 to it, which is this one here. So send that 4 times. Now I need to set that back into run. Yep. Okay, now that's set to run. It says to cycle the power. So emergency stop, that cuts power to my tracks. Then re-enable. Right, so main line closed, catch point open. Throw it again. Main line open, catch point closed. So that's operating correctly. Now if we do an emergency stop and wait a minute, that should not self-center itself and stay set. Which it has done. So that was deactivating the self-centering, and that number code again for deactivating was 202. 202. Right, now I'll just set that back to the mainline position. We have this other point which is throwing in the reverse direction to what I require. So to reverse the throw, we need another one of those code numbers, which would have been 197. That is now 201, 201. So exact same process, to the other point. I find that motor, I set it to learn mode like I just did. I come onto my system, I throw point coded 201 4 times. I then switch it back into run. I cycle my power. Okay, so just then I switched the point. But because I was switching it to be lining up for the turntable, that one did not go, but the catch point did. So if I get the camera angle, we go back to the main line. They are now working as a set correctly. So back for the turntable. There we go. So yeah, that's reversing the direction of that mainline point using code 201. If you want to re-enable self-centering for whatever reason that is, don't ask me, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you do, the code is 203. But that's how you deactivate self-centering if you get a point like that. I never activated it on that point. It was just one out of my big box that seemed to have it still set. I hope this video was useful for you. And I hope to do videos like this in the future, talking about all the technical things that I add to this layout. I mean, this was just the Cobalt IP digital turnout motors from DCC Concepts. There is a normal episode video coming out soon once I finish this project. I just wanted to make a little video on that to show how they program, and I hope it was useful for you. I'm going to go and continue on with the project and get these last 3 motors done, as well as sort out the join between this panel and the yard panel. So next video should be up in a week or 2 after this one. Right, hope you enjoyed it.